Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell. You know what time it is. It is 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning. I'm going to apologize now. Lost my voice yesterday. I may be struggling a little bit with it today, but we are still here ready to do the Sales Logic podcast. Mark, we got a good show on tap for today.
We're going to be talking about the best sales advice, the worst sales advice, and the sales advice you wish you had been given. Oh no, this is going to open up some stars.
Yeah, I'm hoping that our listeners really chime in, because I tell you, all of us have gotten good sales advice, bad sales advice, but you're going to walk away today from this show with some really good sales advice that you can put into place. It's going to help you close more deals. Let's get going. All right, welcome back to Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to sell far more effectively. Now, before Mark starts the show officially, I always like to tell you, come be a part of the show. Chat in, but give your comments. And if you like the show, please subscribe and leave a comment. But we want to feature you here on the show. So if you've got a question, send it to Mark, send it to me, send it to saleslogicpodcast.com. All right, Mark. Let's rock and roll.
Hey, let's rock and roll, because the best sales advice, the worst sales advice, and the sales advice you wish you had been given, because we both have received great sales advice. We wouldn't be successful today without it. But I'm sure there's also some advice, boy, I wish we had a little bit younger, a little bit. Yeah. Jump in. What's that best sales advice you've ever received?
Oh, well, I if it's okay, I really want to start with bad sales advice.
Oh, we're going dark side. I love it.
Well, just because I think that, I really got derailed early in sales. And I think one of my favorite worst pieces of sales advice that I have ever been given is to just be told that it is nothing more than a numbers game. If you just make more calls, you will get the deal. And I'm going to tell you why that is bad sales advice, in my opinion, is because if you don't understand, if you are not, the reason I love tracking sales calls is because I want to know if they turned into proposal opportunities, if they turned into won proposals or lost proposals. And just making more doesn't give me the information I need. I've certainly made plenty of phone calls and never land a deal. And if you're not understanding your data, you can make 100 sales calls and never get a deal. You can make 20 better sales calls and get a deal. So it isn't just a numbers game. There's so much more to it than that.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. And I go back to some of the worst sales advice I ever got. I remember it from a gentleman. He was my boss at the time. And he said, Mark, you have to quit asking other people for assistance. You have to quit asking other people, because that's a sign of weakness. That's a sign of weakness. And at the time, I was in a corporate environment, very much of a bro culture, go back a couple decades. And if you asked for assistance, you were seen as being weak, and you weren't going to get the big accounts. You weren't going to get the next assignments. You weren't going to get the promotions. And I look back on it, and that only did one thing. It fueled my ego to say that I have everything I need to be successful, and it's just me. And I'll tell you what, if I had not had that conversation, been not in that environment, I think my career would have accelerated much faster and much better, with a lot less stress. Yeah.
Love Andy's chiming in here with his best sales advice ever. When the buyer says no, the salesperson gets to work. A 30-year vet taught Andy that, and it was the best advice he ever got. I got to tell you, Andy, I'm going to go a little flip of that, because I feel like some of the I used to work for a sales manager who always told us never take no for an answer. And when I moved into sales leadership position, what I learned was I was wasting time chasing business that I didn't want to catch, that I almost got more turned on when they told me no, right? And then I would end up doing everything I could to land the deal, only to realize I had inherited a customer I didn't really want.
That is so spot on, because that was the exact thing that happened when I was in this environment. You can't let go of anything. You can't let go of anything. And you kept chasing, chasing, chasing. And you wind up putting so many cycles, so much effort into business that doesn't make sense. It wasn't later on until, I don't know if somebody told me or just figured out that the number of cycles you put into trying to land a deal have to be equal to the size of the opportunity. You don't just stay in a deal for the sake of, they're saying, no, I'm going to keep going, because if they're a little tiny deal, why are you chasing them? And again, that's some bad advice, that I want to stay in the game only if it's a big, worthwhile deal. I want to go back and I want to share, because I wrote about it in my book, A Mind for Sales, some of the best sales advice. And I still remember it to this day. The best sales advice ever. I was called into my boss's office, Bob Stone. I still remember. I can paint the picture exactly for you. I won't go into details now. But he told me exactly. He said, you are not going to be successful in sales because you're not taking the time to listen to the customer. And he challenged me, because I had only been selling the product. And until you really take time to understand the customer, what their needs are, and listen to them. And that was without a doubt the single greatest piece of sales advice I ever had. It came on the heels of being fired from 2 previous sales jobs. So hello. I needed to hear that, because I thought I was going to get fired from Bob. But that was without a doubt, I think, the best sales advice I've ever received.
Well, it goes really well with what John Wong is chiming in here. Listen far more than you talk. When active listening, you will hear the closing opportunity presented to you. Bryn, I am fascinated by your worst advice ever. This isn't enough. You've got to tell us why it's your worst advice. The worst advice Bryn Tillman, the LinkedIn social media guru, got was grab a legal pad and pen, sit back, ask the prospect what keeps you up at night, and get quiet. I'm really intrigued. I can make a couple of guesses as to why it was the worst sales advice. Here's another worst sales advice. Oh my God, and we did this for years. In fact, we hired big consultants to help us do this. And that was the pre-call plan. We used to have these sheets where before we would ever go out and talk to a prospect, before we ever had a conversation, before we ever listened, we would pre-call the plan. We would decide how we were going to open the call, what products we were going to present, what products they were going to buy, and how we were going to close the deal, all before we ever had a conversation. Like, how stupid is that, right? Like, you don't know what the prospect needs or wants until you have that conversation.
Oh, that is so good. I still remember this one. I'm standing on a sidewalk having a conversation with my boss, and he says, just make the call. Just make the call. Well, I haven't prepared enough. Just make the call. And again, excellent sales advice, because his whole premise was, you will sit there and try to prep, and it's going to force you down a road that the customer doesn't want to go down. And if I think about it, that was totally supportive to the conversation I had with Bob Stone years earlier, where he said, just listen to the customer. Listen. Yeah. And you're right. We can sit there and we can over prepare. It's only a conversation. Nobody's going to get killed. Nobody's going to get harmed, right? I mean, I think this is the biggest reason people are fearful of prospecting. Well, I haven't prepared enough. I don't know what I'm going to say. Just make the call. See what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So Natalie's chiming in here. Best advice. My first job out of college, my boss gave me to talk to Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, and then sent you to Zig Ziglar. That is a good boss. I tell you, to this day, I love the fact that How to Win Friends and Influence People was written in the 1930s, and it is still probably one of the most. It's probably even more important today, because you're not selling a product and you're not selling a service. You're really selling yourself first, which was probably some of the best sales advice I have ever gotten, is that understanding that it is about building the connection and building the relationship first, and the sale will come second.
You know what I find fascinating about that is, you go back 20 or 30 years ago, and there were really only a few sales books. There were only a couple sales books you could read, and that was it. And we all read them. Everybody read them. Today, there's so much information. Yeah. There's so many insights. And why are people not taking advantage of it? It's like this podcast. Again, I mean, we got an email yesterday. I just forwarded to you, Mira, on a listener who loves our podcast and just stumbled upon it. Why didn't I find it earlier? information is out there to help you become a better salesperson. But I think you have to open your mind up and open your eyes up to really see it. And that was my problem early on, because I was raised in my sales years, my formative sales years, in this, I hate to say it, bro culture, where you don't ask for assistance. You just go out and do it, make it happen.
Yeah, Andy, such great points here. Talking about the fact that, when you get a no, it's time to get to work. He says here, if you learn from the small gust to turn a no into a yes, doing that is worth the effort, because you're learning in the minors before you get to the majors. Really, really good sales advice. In fact, that's one of my new best sales advice. They said to try it out, to just get comfortable with what you're doing in that. In basically in that piece. I would say another really good sales piece of advice I got was early on in my career was that if I build my network, I will never have to make a cold call. And that was a really good piece of advice for me, because I was terrified of the cold call. In fact, I still don't really like it today. I don't like calling somebody I know out of the blue that I have no connection to at all. But if I build that network, I have somebody that can help me open that door and make a connection.
Well, see, that's some of the best sales advice we get, is when we open ourselves up to listen to other people and connect with other people. And again, that's the best sales advice I can tell anybody today is who is in your peer group, who's in your mastermind, who are you taking the time to be coached by, and you helping coach them. This is so critical, because again, I've said this time and time again, you become the sum of the 5 people you associate with the most. Jim Rohn said that line years ago. That's so true. You've got to surround yourself with other successful people, and it's amazing at what you will learn from that.
Yeah. So another bad piece of sales advice, and this one drives me crazy when I see it with sales people, is build rapport. I hate this sales advice, and the reason I hate this sales advice is because not everybody wants to build rapport. The older that I get, I realize how much little patience I have for the tactics of sales. I protect my personal time so ferociously. I don't make small talk. I want to get to the point. I want to have the subject. I want it over as fast as I can, so I can go do something fun or work on my business. And so this whole idea of, remember when you used to go to sales training and you would establish rapport, get to know the person. You got to read the room. Like other people may want to establish rapport. Probably a lot of people that you call on want to establish rapport. I can think of a client. It was with a really big client this week, and the CEO is a former Navy SEAL. I get to the point. I do not waste his time. I just get there. But the person that I'm working directly with in the company is very relationship focused. I know all about his family. I know all about. So you really got to understand those things.
I found that to be so true. When I began sales, I was selling in Oregon, and there was no personal info. Then I go from there to Tennessee, where the customer wants to sit down and talk forever. And I'll tell you what, it was a hard adjustment. I no more than got adjusted to it. Then suddenly I'm selling in New York. Whoa, there's a 180. And it is, you've got to be able to read the room. You've got to be able to read the person. But I'll tell you what, if it's counter to your style, to your DNA, that can be hard. Yeah, it's absolutely hard. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're going to talk about Bryn.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. And this is what I thought, Bryn, but I wanted to know why ask the customer, get a legal pad, ask them what keeps them up at night, sit back and listen was bad advice. Bryn followed up. She said, it puts the prospect on the spot, asking what keeps you up at night. It's broad, cliche, and forces them to do all the work in identifying the pain points. I want to follow up with her piece here. If you haven't done the research or built any credibility, this question feels lazy. It signals that you expect the process to reveal their problems, and that good salespeople guide the conversation by offering insights. The reason I wanted to ask you that question and get it on there is because I had a CEO tell me one time, I was doing research for a book I was writing, and he said, the last thing I need is some salesperson walking in here asking me what keeps me up at night. To Bryn's point, I need a salesperson who can walk in, tell me what keeps me up at night, and how the heck I can get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, because the 80s are calling. They want their
Yeah.
question back, right? That was the big
Yeah.
question back in the 80s. Hey, I love Demi is jumping in. My sales manager used to tell me to eat the frog. Great Brian Tracy line, eat the frog. What that means is you got to do the tough stuff right away. You know, whenever we had call reluctance, you eat the frog and make the call. This is so true. This is so key. This is why, again, some of the best sales advice I've ever received, I don't know where I received it, but it's how you start the day sets the tempo for the day. And if you sit there and put off, you will never get to it. I love Bill King, mastermind member. Some of the best sales advice is making sure you're calling on your ideal client profile and qualifying before trying to add anything to your pipeline. So true. Again, it isn't about random shots into the air. No, it's about knowing who you're dealing with. And again, so many times, I saw this so many times in organizations I would work with where the salespeople are just randomly calling randomly. No, hold it. We got to understand what your ICP is. There is as much bad sales advice out there as there is good. And I think that's why we have such a churn, such a turnover in the sales community.
Yeah, I think the reason that I really wanted to do this show was that I think that so many people, not anybody listening to this, but I was just speaking at High Point University, and I had a small group of students there that wanted to go into sales. But for most people, sales is not an industry they want to go into. And I think it's an industry we don't want to go into because we've been given bad sales advice. The truth is, you sell every day of your life. If you've ever tried to get an older parent to give up their car keys, that's a sale. If you've ever tried to get a spouse or significant other to go to the doctor or to get healthy, that is a sales job. If you've ever followed through with your own New Year's resolution, guess what? You just sold yourself on making a change in habit. It is innate in us. And I think it just got crushed with all this bad sales advice on top of us. I hate all the art of the close. I hate the you've got to be aggressive in this industry. I think with some of the best advice I ever got, which totally made the change for me, is somebody who said, Meredith, you're really good with people. You enjoy them, you're interested, and you listen. Just go out there, find ways to help people, and the sale will happen. Now, I had to put a strategy on part of that. I had to read the data. I had to all those types of things, but that got me out the door and really got me moving.
Doesn't that change your mindset? Because I think
Completely.
the mindset so many people have is that sales is what you do to people. No, false. Sales is what you do for people. And again, you are helping people. Go back to the definition I have of sales. It's helping others see and achieve what they didn't think was possible. When you change your mindset, and this is where have you ever met a successful salesperson that doesn't have the right mindset?
Right.
They realize that they're helping people. That's what it's all about. And the bad advice, you're right, is where it's just make another call, and it's all about the product, get the order. Early on in my sales career, that was why I struggled, because I treated customers as if they were bowling pins. It was my job to knock down the pins, take the money, and run. And that was why I was not successful. And that's why I go back. My best sales advice was Bob Stone sitting me down in his office in Tualatin, Oregon. I remember it so well, saying, hey, you don't understand the customers. You're not taking the time to listen to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love what John's saying here. Even the best at what they do can benefit from a coach. I mean, we only have to watch sports for that, right? Everybody who's at the top of their game is working on is basically working on getting better. Miriam, I'm with you. I wish I'd had some of these before as well. And Bryn chimes in and says, the flip of the worst sales advice, the best she ever got was look at a prospect as a lead rather than looking at them as a lead. Treat them as the human that they are. That's right. Go in with the mindset that you can help. Mark, before we flip into the book, I'm gonna end with my favorite sales advice I ever got was that overfill your pipeline so you're never selling from a place of desperation. That I needed to sell even when I didn't need the business, and that really changed. Like being able to go out in the world and look for business and being okay with losing a deal because other deals are coming through the pipeline. At any point in my career, and I still experience where my pipeline is light, it's painful for me, and it makes me get back on the phone, start making calls, because I overfill that pipeline. I'm a much better salesperson.
I'm going to add to that. If you are, as a salesperson, struggling with this whole selling thing, change the word selling to serving. You're serving your customers. You're
Yeah.
serving others. And it's a privilege and an honor. When you begin to do that, I think you begin to move yourself from seeing sales as a job and seeing it more as a lifestyle. You and I both see sales as a lifestyle because we get to go out and help people all the time. That is so cool. Hey, you ready to jump into the book?
I am.
The book is by Connie
Meridith
and Meridith Elliott Powell, the best sales book ever. And it is a great book from two great people.
Well, the way that Connie and I wrote the book, and I was looking at something to put in there, and I thought, gosh, if you really want to understand how to sell, we wrote the book in two directions. One is for the salesperson, how to become the best salesperson ever, and then we wrote it from the flip. If you turn the book over, and I should have grabbed one out of my closet, but you turn the book over, and it's the best sales book ever for sales leaders. How do you train the best salespeople? If you do not know Connie Podesta, you should know Connie Podesta. She is a legend in the field of sales. She is a therapist and a sales guru. And as we all know, anybody who sells could use a little bit of therapy.
And you think about it, she was a therapist before she was in sales.
Yes.
That's what makes her so special.
So good at it. Right.
Wonderful lady.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? And that kind of takes us to our next Sales Logic Expert Exchange is going to be with Tiffany Bova.
I know.
Which is awesome. And she's going to be talking about the future of sales. And she's written the book, Growth IQ. And man, she's going to blow your mind away. So look for the registration on that and sign up for that. It'll be coming up here the tail end of February.
Yeah, we're going to have it on the 25th of this month. We're going to accommodate a little bit of change in the schedule to accommodate Tiffany, but she's a rock star. And if you understand the future of sales, mark your calendar right now, 4 Eastern on February 25th. Happens to be my husband's birthday. And we're going to be working with Tiffany Bova. Love what Bryn says here. Wow, this is such good advice. Detach from what the prospect is worth to you and attach to what you are worth to the prospect. Total energy shift. That is gold. We love you too, Brent. All right.
Because now you're serving the customer. That's
Absolutely.
What it's all about. Okay, lightning round. Top 10 best habits for sales professionals. Go.
Habit number 1 is develop a sales process, something that you work consistently every single day.
Eat the frog. Start your day strong. Get the work going early.
Yeah. Consistently prospect. Number 3, prospect whether you need the business or not.
Number 4, know that you are serving the customer. Each time you have a conversation, your objective is to learn one new piece of information about them.
Yeah. Habit number 5 is analyze your data on a weekly basis. Reflect on your week. What works that week, what didn't work that week, and what needs to change.
Number 6, have a CRM system that you're using regularly.
Yeah. Number 7, invest in learning at least once a week. Plan to join us here at the Sales Logic podcast, or wherever you get your information.
Number 8, have a peer group, have a mastermind that you are getting your energy from, you're getting ideas from, you're sharing. They're lifting you up, you're lifting them up.
Yeah. And I would say number 9, a great habit is work daily on your mindset. Sales is tough. We get a lot of rejection. We make mistakes. So work daily on your mindset.
Number 10, play the long game. There'll be bumps in the road. That's okay. Play the long game. And sales is an absolutely, truly fantastic profession to be in. Hey, we've had a great show today. With that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, hey, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Something we've said has earned you a single dollar. Consider telling a friend about our show, because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
It does become logical. Plan to join us right here on the 26th. Mark your calendar. You do not want to miss Tiffany Bova. If you're looking to connect, join a mastermind, be with like-minded people who can help you grow your sales, think about joining the Sales Logic Mastermind. And always, if you have a question, need more information, want to leave a comment, go to saleslogicpodcast.com. Till then, we'll see you right back here next week with another episode of Sales Logic. Now go close some business. Renee, you are dead on. Connie is not only a legend, she is one of the funniest human beings alive. All right, we'll see y'all right back here next week.